Hey guys, a friend of mine asked me some questions about accompanying a singer, and this is something that I have a fair amount of experience with and have done workshops about. So I thought that I would just make a quick video talking about some of the most important aspects of accompanying a singer. And by this I mean in a duo. If there's a bass player and a drummer, sort of things change. But if it's just you and a singer, or you and another instrumentalist, really, then that's what we're talking about now. So I'm going to talk about a few things along the way, some misnomers, some ideas that people have about it, and some truths about it. But right now I'm going to give you the basic idea. One of the easiest and best things to do, best sounding things to do on a medium swing, I believe I'll do another video about other kinds of grooves, but for now we'll just talk about medium swing, because that's very common for standards. Let's just do with a pick 4/4 strumming. It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but forever and a day. The radio and the telephone, the movies that we know are just passing fancy, and in time we'll go. But, oh my dear, our love is here to stay, not for a year, but forever and a day. Some da-da-dee-ba-doo-doo-doo, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. So 4/4 strumming, not very many upstrokes, only occasionally on the last beat or the last eighth note of a measure, but not every time. Concentrate on the bottom end. It's really good if you have 2 chords per measure mapped out, and this song has mostly that. If you don't have 2 chords per measure, add an inversion. That's a good way to go. So you play a root position chord followed by a first inversion chord, and that'll usually get you right where you need to go. Simple, straightforward, steady. You don't want to complicate it with too many chords and then screw up the groove. The groove and the feel is primary. Even if you just have to scrub on the strings in a moment of unclarity, do that rather than fumble for chords. Stay down on the bottom end of the guitar, maybe not playing anything from the B or E strings. That helps to stay out of the way of the melody, which is an interesting thing. People say, never play the melody or any melody notes when you're accompanying a singer. Well, that's actually a little bit of a misnomer. I would say a more clear way to say that is, don't try and phrase the melody with the singer, because that is a problem. But, I mean, if there's 3 melody notes in a measure and they're all chord tones, then what are you going to play? You know, you have to make an intelligent decision about this. So one of the things you can do is don't try and phrase the melody with the singer. Also, don't anticipate the singer's melody note on the beginning of a bar, because they might want to lay back or something. Wait. So play the bottom end and then see what happens. But be aware of what the melody is. A worse mistake or problem is that if the melody is sung and it's a held note and you play a note in the top of your chord that's a half step above or below it, that can be a kind of a train wreck, although even sometimes that can work, depending on who the singer is, what kind of music you're playing, and all that. So first thing is a good quarter note strum. I'd say the next thing is to play what I call a 2 feel. It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever and a day. The radio, etc. Papa-doo-dum. So if you're in 2, you can always fill in on the turnaround a little bit of walking bass if you know how to do that. But you noticed on a couple of occasions I had a bar of D minor, for instance, and I put an F in the bass halfway through the bar, and then I had a bar of G and I put a B in the bass halfway through the bar. That's what I mean when I say give yourself 2 voicings per measure. And if you don't have 2 voicings per measure in the song, if there's not 2 chords per measure, use an inversion. Usually first inversion does well because it would lead very nicely to the next chord in the song, usually. Okay? Now, you notice I put in more melody stuff, more chordal accompaniment above the bass. I'll just go through that one more time. That's my melody note. I want to make sure I either give it to myself or the singer. This is just the bass. I use this sort of 2 feel or a push. And that's actually enough if it feels good. Right? Ba-da-da-dum. Now the melody is the flat 7 of that first phrase. It's very clear. Now if I play it right on there, that might not be so good, but if I play this, it's very clear. Our love is here to stay. All right there. Now, from there on, from the F out to the end of that 2 measures, I'm not competing with the singer at all, so I can play something even a little more elaborate. It's very clear. Our love is here to stay. Not for a year, that kind of thing. So pick your spots and you can play melodic questions and answers and those kinds of things. The main thing I'd say is provide the singer with a good rhythmical foundation, not busy necessarily, but solid and good feeling, right? Mostly go for feel. If you can add some chords to get bass movement, that's good. Second stage. Be dynamic. Listen to the singer. Make sure that you're working with them so that what you're doing is enhancing their thing, not a fight, not a fight for supremacy or whatever, okay? So I always think of the singer as being in the foreground and the accompaniment being in the background, and my job is to make them do well and give them something that supports them. If it's a singer that needs melodic support, like for instance, they don't know the song very well or they may not be a very seasoned singer, you might give them some melody notes to help, especially at the beginning of a song. Speaking of the beginning of the song, I might say, it's very clear, our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever and a day. That type of thing. Intros and outros are something you have to get your fingers and your ears around because that's your expected job as well, to set the thing up. Sometimes setting it up means giving them their note. Sometimes not, depending on the experience of the singer. Okay, so we've got a good solid 4/4 feel, and then we have a 2 feel with extra bass movement. Now, sometimes you might also want to be with a singer who has very good time, knows the song very well, and you're freed up to do all sorts of things that might not be sort of remedial. And then you can maybe comp a little more expressively. It's very clear, our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever and a day. Ba-da-da-da. Okay? That all depends on the singer. If the singer's expecting you to provide them with a 4/4 feeling or a groove, or if the tune demands that, so like if it's a soul tune or an R&B tune or something like that, that we expect there to be a constant kind of groove going on, then you have to provide that. But in this context of a medium tempo swing, a little bit of leeway, okay? So you can play that comping style with no underpinning. And then the opposite of that would be to play the whole thing with 4/4, like 4 on the floor bass notes. It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever and a day. Ba-do-be-do, dee-bo-do-bum, ba-do-dee-do-dee-do-day, da-do-dee-do, da-do-doo-dee-do. Okay? Now, some people don't like that. Sometimes singers feel like that's crowding them or pushing and pulling too much, or there's too much, it's not bassy enough. I don't know. There's some people don't like that effect. I think that the reason that a lot of singers don't like guitar players to do that is because guitar players don't do it very well. So if you learn how to do it really well, maybe you could convince someone that it's appropriate. Okay? And then let's see if there's anything else. Let's talk about rubato, or out of time feeling, or just a flow. It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but forever and a day. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know are just passing fancies. Time will go. That approach is also nice. You have to listen. The singer has to know where they are in the feel, and then you follow them. That's usually what I prefer. I don't prefer to play rubato where I'm supposedly leading the singer. I like to follow the singer, which means you let them play in their own time feel, and then you give them support along the way. And then usually that would be maybe the first chorus or even the verse of the song, and then you'd kick into something with a groove. One cautionary note about 4/4 time is the next big issue. After the singer sings, what do you do as a player to make take a solo, as it were? If you're already grinding away in 4/4, it's very difficult to keep that going. So then you have a couple of different choices. Maybe the scope of this video won't include that, but be careful about immediately going into 4/4 time, because then you kind of have a bad feeling if you have to stop doing that, generally speaking. So I say do it in 2, and then you can take your solo in 2, and then maybe come out of your solo in 4/4 with a walking bass line to bring the tune home. But there's a lot of different strategies. I'm just trying to express some of the things that I do, some of the cautionary things, some of the misnomers that are out there. Okay? So remember, a good groove is better than a lot of chord changes. A good set of chord changes and a good groove is really great. Separating the bass from the top part of the chord is a skill that's really helpful to play in 2 especially. And watch out for walking bass, because you're kind of setting yourself up for a little bit of difficulty if you jump into it too soon, or if you're always going to your go-to. Okay? Learn your inversions. And if you liked some ideas about this stuff, this kind of thing, melodic chordal phrases, I have a book on Guitar Vivo called Melodic Jazz Guitar Chord Phrases, and also the Melodic Jazz Guitar Chord Dictionary might be helpful for good sources of chord voicings that can help. All right, take care.